Okay, I just wanted to show you a very quick overview of the screen layouts of Assessment Manager version 1. Well, it's actually not really version 1, it's still beta, I guess. Um, and I'll do this quite quickly, and then some of the more complex areas I'll come back and do a separate little clip on. Now I've logged in as Professor Isaac Newton, and because this user is registered as a user manager, then they see this box here. They're also registered as a chief assessor, so they see this box here. They're registered as an assessor, so they see this box here, and they're also registered as a student. So these are the sort of four main user types that there are in the system, and I'll talk a bit more about that another time. If we click on Manage Assignments as Chief Assessor, it gives a list of the assignments that have been created by this Chief Assessor, and what we've got is the assignment titles, the date that they were created, the start and end date, a cut-off date, which is date up until which the assignment can still be accepted but will be marked as late, and submissions aren't accepted after the cut-off date. There's whether the assignment is active or not, so you can turn it on and off regardless of the dates. And the status. Now there's several stages in the marking cycle, such as the assignment has been created, the marks for the submissions have been released, etc., etc., etc. Now these statuses are actually displayed back to the student on their screen, so they know where their assignment is in the cycle. We've got a column that shows the number of assessors that have been assigned to each assignment and the number of submissions that have been received for each assignment. And remember that the purpose of this system is to accept assignments from large numbers of students in a cohort, and then to divide those assignments up between assessors, and for them to mark the assignments, and then for the ability to moderate those grades afterwards. So this bottom one here, the future of educational technology, has just freshly been created, and there's no submissions and no assessors yet, so it's got a delete button. So because nothing's been recorded against it, we've still got time to delete that. If we we'll click on that one, and then each assignment has a number of screens. So it's got a status, summary, some configuration screens, the marking scheme, which is complex and interesting, and I'll talk about that one separately. Comment screen, submissions, assessors, a moderate screen, and a user profile. Because this one hasn't got any submissions, what we've got here is the basic stats. I'll actually just flick back to this one, the Big River Shire Council. All of this is test data, by the way. It's used for obviously testing. So here we've got 2,992 submissions, which they've all been marked, and then we've got a mean, a minimum, the quarter one, median, quarter three, and maximum. Then we've got standard deviation and variance. So basic statistics for measuring the dispersal of those marks. Those marks for the assignment. In terms of this is the status screen. In terms of the summary, we've got just a title, a description, and a brief. In terms of the configuration, we can configure the types of documents that are acceptable and the maximum size. So at the moment we've set it to be a Word document or a text document, but it could be a PowerPoint, or we could select these different file types down here. I wrote this in 2004, so at that stage we were looking at systems that would enable upload it into the actual application itself, and increasingly I think we'll be looking at providing a link to somewhere where that submission has been uploaded. So it might be a YouTube video, or it might be somewhere in Google Docs or something like that, very much in the way that John Mott at Brigham Young is looking at doing a loosely coupled grade book and having that sort of ability to assess submissions from all over the web, regardless of actually being located within the system. Then you've got submission dates, and automation allows you to configure whether the assessors are allocated automatically or whether you're going to do them manually, because you may want to choose who assesses which assignments. If you don't, then the assessors will automatically be allocated a number of assignments. Marking scheme, I'm going to come back to the marking scheme because that's really one of the most important aspects of the whole system. The comments are a list of standard comments that you may find repeated over and over again. So when it comes to marking the submission, you'll have this list of comments and there's a checkbox, so you can check the ones that are appropriate to this submission, so that you don't have to keep retyping the whole thing or reworking the comments for the submission. It's all part of trying to make the marking process, the assessment process, as painless and smooth as possible. The submissions. Some of the submissions. And this is just running off my laptop at the moment, so it's a little bit slower than normal. There we go. And so what we've here is we can see all the submissions, we can see who they've been allocated to. We've got a marking history, we can actually view the submission. And I'll come back to this because this is really part of the crux of what it is. And what we can do is, excuse me, what we can do is unallocate the submissions and allocate the submissions. So we can either do it manually using these drop-down boxes. Now, because this has already been marked, these are grayed out. But if this hadn't been marked yet, you could drop those down and select the assessor that was going to assess that assignment according to whichever the student was. And we've got the overall grades. So what we've mapped actual marks, the mark awarded to a grade. Now your institution might have different grades, so that's configurable. So a pass might be 50 to 60 credits, 60 to 70 distinction, 70 to 80 HD. Higher distinction might be above that. So, but that's all configurable. And so that was the submissions. Over on this screen we've got the assessors, and so for this one you can see we've actually got about 10 or 12 assessors, and we've also got 4 chief assessors. And we've allocated these, you can see the number of submissions that have been allocated to each one and the number that they've marked. So as a chief assessor you can see that assessor number 6, whoever that might be, you'd see their name there of course, has been allocated 216, of which they've maybe marked 200 at that particular time in the marking process. Okay, and then into the moderate screen, the moderate screen, I should say. And again, this is a fairly data-intensive screen because this screen essentially allows you to take individual students, the whole cohort, or maybe groups of students that are between a certain percentage or have been marked by a specific assessor, and then moderate those however you want to. And I'll come back and show you how that's done later on in a different video. And that's it. So that's it for the chief assessor. If you're just an assessor, you just see your formal your submissions for assessments. So you might say that for this assignment, I've been allocated 1. I've marked 1, and I don't have any left. But normally it would say I've got 30 allocated. I've marked 15. Remaining 15, so my progress is 50%, so it shows you how to get there. And then you click on the link, it takes you straight to to the submission, and I'll go through the marking process another time. And if you're a student, again, I'll take you through what the student sees in a separate video. Manage users is just really to add and remove users and to allocate them in their roles. Now, if this is ever developed as a product, what we'll want to do is to tie that into a university's identity system, user management system, to populate the students and make sure you've got single sign-on and all those sorts of things. So that's a very quick overview of the screens in Assessment Manager, and yes, it's very much beta, and lots of improvements could and maybe should be made to it. I'll show you some of the other screens in a separate video.